stress. It definitely affects my sleep. And this is just going back a few years, you know, this is not such a big issue these days, but actually it's not true, it is.
I can easily fall into self-seeking and depression and self-pity.
Pressure is only natural, but sometimes too much pressure is too much pressure.
All of a sudden I was hit with this wave of anxiety because I was looking at the outcome rather than the sort of process. And
most people don't chase their dreams because they're scared of what their mates will say.
Ignorance to like what it was that I was doing.
If you would go back to that younger self in that picture, what would you say to that younger self?
I used to remember going to parties in LA because at the beginning, you know, as a young kid, you try to fit into the LA world. And now that I've grown up a little bit and I know that it isn't my place to be, I don't try as hard to like go out to the LA parties and mix with celebrities that I don't know. But I used to go to these parties and be like, I can't speak to someone until I'm drunk. Like, I've got to get this going. And now that I've kicked that and I found replacements that make me feel like I'm a part of the process without sacrificing my morning, my afternoon, my next few days, has been so liberating.
Something that did really upset me, I was in New York, I was shooting The Crowded Room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was, the emotional capacity that I was having to get to every day. And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life that it was just taking over. I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. And it was becoming a problem. I was just obsessed with it, and I was obsessed to find out what people were saying and what they thought about me. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media. And I try to position myself and say, like, I'm taking a break from social media because I feel like my mental health will benefit from it.
I think I was more vulnerable than I'd been in a long time, just out of exhaustion, but also out of the questions that were starting to circulate through my head. And a lot of them were to do with, you know, this point in my life and am I proud of what I've done? Am I, you know, what's next? And all I kept thinking was, I have been sprinting through life and the moments and opportunities, and I'm grateful for them, but I've been very quickly going to the next one. And I was in a bit of a state of what's next and what's the point and who am I, and all of this kind of questions that I hadn't sort of been able to analyze, but were there in the back of my head.
You've talked before about this idea of how your acting career has actually brought on huge anxiety and stress. Where's that come from?
I remember when I first started acting, I had it immediately, once I sort of locked into the idea that I was going to become an actor, it was an absolute obsession. It was an addiction. It was all I talked about. It was just sort of, there was no shadow of a doubt that was what I was going to do. And there was a ignorance and a naivety that was there about the reality of how difficult that was going to be. But you need a fair amount of madness, I think, to sort of excel in any space. There needs to be a certain amount of absolute, deeply profound sort of commitment to it. You know, you talk about Kobe Bryant and anyone who's excelled in their field, and you know, a number of sports players and individuals that I look to, they're sort of on the spectrum in some sense. You know, that there's a sort of a mastery there which is otherworldly, but it does require a sort of an insane dedication to it.
You don't appreciate how fortunate you are. And people love when people appreciate good fortune and appreciate a well-earned position and are, you know, engrossed in a beautiful life of something that they really enjoy and something that really inspires them.
Well, I need to be kept right-sized because I can easily fall into self-seeking and depression and self-pity and judgment and all that stuff. It's kind of it's a bit of a default, but I spend enough energy and I've had enough help over enough years to actually just say, oh, that's just awful, destructive behavior you're entertaining in your head,
Bad patterns, just bad thought patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could all fall into those. I'm ruthlessly self-critical, and it's for me sometimes it's very hard to step outside and just take a pause and recognize that not everything's going to be right the first time you try it. I think that a lot of people that are really great at things, it's one of the things about them is that they're not very satisfied with their work. Like, they're always looking to improve it. They're always looking for it to be better, and then that can start that cycle in their head of self-loathing and anxiety and anger at their performance or their work or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then that can lead to depression. That can lead to just self-hate.
And, mental health is something everybody's talking about, whether it's Simone Biles or Michael Phelps and all these athletes who have made a point of saying that this is an important thing. And there seems to be a respect around that, but maybe not so much in your world.
Yeah, and I think it's very different, and it's very obvious to see how someone like Simone Biles would be affected by mental health, the pressure that she's under to perform at the level that she performs at. She's absolutely incredible. We sat down and watched her this year, and I can totally see how that pressure would get to anyone. Pressure is only natural, and pressure is a privilege to a certain degree, but sometimes too much pressure is too much pressure. And I think mental health, I took a break from social media once and felt the need to kind of announce it because I didn't want people to worry that, I had disappeared or something, I don't know. And that also was met with a negative reaction of like, oh, you can't hack it. Like, you can't handle social media. And I just think that sometimes it's important to look up and engage with what's around you. And I find for me with social media, I can easily sit on the couch for 4 hours and scroll. And I haven't had Instagram on my phone. I'll download it to post something, or download it if a friend of mine's posts something and I want to like it for them. But 99% of the time I don't have it on my phone. And my life is so much better.
I've always been really good at separating my onset emotions from my personal life emotions. As a young kid, I used to really heavily rely on my personal emotions to get them to come across on screen. And I just found it really unhealthy. I just found that the line between my life and my character's life would be blurred. And ultimately, at the end of the experience of making the film, I would be a very different person, but not because of my experiences as Tom, it would be because of my experiences as my character. So I decided very early on to find certain techniques and certain ways to get into those emotions from a sort of technical point of view. I never sit on set and think about my mum getting sick or never speaking to my brothers again or something like that. I never blur the lines with my personal life and my work life. I always leave work at work. There are jobs like The Crowded Room that are particularly taxing. Getting to those emotions on a daily basis is really difficult and really tiring.
And it was that kind of pressure. I was thinking 10 years ahead. And then so by the time I got onto Home and Away, which was, that big soap opera, longest running soap opera in Australia, which I'm
from London, so
London, you're aware of. Yeah. I flew into that experience with enthusiasm and excitement, and it was great for a couple of months. And all of a sudden I was hit with this wave of anxiety because I was looking at the outcome rather than the sort of process. And I was looking at the, I'm doing it for this reason and that reason, rather than being in the moment, in the present. And it really detracted from what I was doing each day. And it would be the last thing I'd think about before I go to bed was what scenes I'd screwed up and how I should have done this, I should have done that. And as soon as I'd wake up, it'd be like a shot of adrenaline about what I was gonna screw up. And I don't know where I think it became from a sort of expecting too much of myself, which is, there's a slight sort of contradiction to that too, because as I said, it requires that obsessive, addictive sort of concentration, but it's the ability to sort of hold that obsession and that absolute need and want for it to achieve something great that you want to achieve, and then at the same time to completely let it go and not care. Yeah. And so I had to do this strange dance around trying to convince myself I didn't care, but in the preparation time to motivate myself, I would have to care a hell of a lot. And so it's sort of the you know, the two voices, the Jekyll and Hyde version of oneself that is sort of both need to be kept in check. You know, it's your purpose pulls you, your fear pushes you. There's a sort of strange balance with the two extremes, I find.
Most people don't chase their dreams because they're scared of what their mates will say, let alone what the world will say.
What the world will say.
Yeah, like I had this late, I was flying back last night, as I was telling you. So I was on a plane from DC to London last night. And the air hostess, she was wonderful. Her name was Jeanette. She said to me, she was like, Jay, I really want to start a YouTube channel, but you know, you just got to block out what your friends are going to say, right? And she was just worried about it. So that it's a very real thing. So I guess, have you kind of figured out a little formula for it? Or is it just natural because you saw your dad and it's become easier that way?
I think it's a little bit of both, really. You know, I think it's something you definitely get better at. I'm really lucky that I have an incredibly strong group of friends. Like, one of my best mates just called me up earlier to say he'd seen the 5th episode, and he's like, I know what happens in the show and I'm still loving it. The people I'm watching it with have no idea what's going on, but they can't wait for the next one. Yeah. So, you know, I really, really hold high the opinions of people that I really care about. I'm also really lucky to have an amazing group of fans who are so supportive. They are diehard, they are there day one, and that makes me feel really good. But I do think a lot of my lessons in life have come from my dad and the ways that he can deal with things that he hasn't done very well in the past, that he's passed on to me. And I live by this really, I don't actually know if Christian Bale did say this, but I think he did.
Bale, so
I love Christian
Bale.
Say he said it. Yeah,
we'll say he said it, yeah.
But I think the quote is, if you have a problem with me, text me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me.
That is so good.
And I think that is such a great piece of advice, because as a celebrity, you live on this stage, you live out there, you kind of give out a version of yourself that you want people to see. Mm-hmm. And that can be the version of yourself that they can have a problem with or they can love. And there is I feel like I'm quite authentic in my public persona, but I just try to really care about what my family thinks, what my friends think, what the people in my local community think. I live in Kingston. I know everyone that lives there. I can't walk 5 feet without bumping into one of my mum's friends. So yeah, so it's something I've been working on. I try my best to not let that stuff affect me. It does.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not cold-hearted or anything like that. It does affect me, but I just try to move on and focus on the positives.
I miss the days when like getting the gig was the win. But now the gig being successful is what is the win. But I feel like I held on to that for a really long time. Even after Spider-Man, getting a new job was just as exciting as being cast as Spider-Man. And I think that having that kind of freedom and in some ways ignorance to like what it was that I was doing was really helpful for me in building confidence in my own capabilities. So I just never really give it much thought. Mm-hmm. I try not to think about the fact that millions of people will see it, and
because the insanity of too much of that thinking is incredibly detrimental, and you never enjoy what you have because it's always about, I need to get more, and it's just not enough, or what else do I do to secure this even more? And it's this obsession with safety I think we all have, and the need for abundance and security. And but then I look at my own childhood where I couldn't have felt more secure and safe, and so money isn't the answer to that, yet you sort of trick yourself into thinking it is. And whether that's from societal sort of understandings and expectations and the sort of our relationship to money as human beings, and how we signal or represent safety and comfort in the wrong spaces maybe, but it's a constant navigation, isn't it?
What is your relationship with that discomfort? Like, how did you quell it? Or, what is your way of like working through whatever that is so that you can be in this place of feeling like I'm good, I'm me, I can go anywhere, and I don't have that compulsion?
It definitely took a while to get to a place to feel comfortable going into bars and pubs and stuff like that. I think the realization for me was that I'm a very confident person, but I'm more confident when I'm pretending to be someone else, because the ramifications of your actions aren't real because you're pretending. So I would get really uncomfortable and not confident in social scenarios out in public. And I think
when you're just being you,
when I'm just being myself. And I think that's why I really latched onto drinking, because it masked that insecurity with stupidity, I guess, a little bit.
The more difficult element of that is you have to go from nothing to 100% in an instant. Like having, and I don't mean like physically necessarily, but you have to go from no action to action.
Yeah.
Consistently throughout the day.
Yeah, I'm more used to that. I guess the real thing too is, and this goes back to creating a routine that's flexible enough to whether you're doing it late afternoon, late morning, or when I'm working, I'm up at 5 and doing it at 6, which is, you know, can be a little rough. But the whole thing is, if I don't take care of myself before the day starts its merry march, then that's on me.
And I really hope it changes, because I think self-preservation is so important. And only a fool would say to you, you should work until you crack. Because if you crack, it's going to take you longer to get back to full fitness and work at your top capacity. So for me, like taking these strategic little breaks where you can rest and recoup and come back your best self is really important, and something that should be heralded rather than chastised.
When it's in control of you, it feels like pressure and fear. And then when you're in control of it, when you're embodying it, it's now part of your narrative and part of your purpose and part of you feeling like, oh, this is fuel for how I want to perform, rather than this is just reminding me of, hey, if I miss these 3 things, no one's going to care about me and I'll mess this up. And that obviously is not helpful at all. And so you're saying befriending it is transforming it from being pressure and fear to being friendship and purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an acceptance to it. There's a surrendering to it. There's an ownership to it, as opposed to it being something you're trying to avoid. But that only comes through, I think, understanding the mechanisms or the mechanics around the fact that it is beneficial if you have that relation to it. You know, it is the worst thing in the world if you're trying to avoid it.
Yes.
Like, you know, shallow breath, heart rate's up, sweaty palms, like you can't think, everything just shuts down, you know. But if it's like, no, this physical response, this emotional response, I've programmed myself to see as a positive, therefore it can be.
Yeah.
You know that thing sometimes when someone asks you a question and just you get caught flat-footed and he goes, no, your action is you're trying to go to work, but you're getting distracted by this addiction you have to trying to get laid. So your action is you're trying to get to work. And I was like, oh yeah, he's right. And he said, always know what your action is, because then when you come in the morning confident, or when you come in the morning and you can't hit your ass with both hands, you know what to do.
Have you ever talked to Downey about?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
He's been a real ally for me.
He is all in.
Yeah.
Like he works his program so hard and makes sure that it's always his number one priority.
Yeah. He's very generous with it. He's really helpful.
Yeah.
So confidence, you know, there's been times when I felt I'm in possession of it, and then you want to let go a little bit, because it's only ever the moment and life guiding you. The wind is so at your back that you're like, wow, are you just, you know, jumping over the waves and all that by yourself? And you're like, you bet I am. But there's a physics to the moment, man, moment, machine, whatever, and the wind's at your back. And then the wind does what the fucking wind does, and it changes. And if you're left there thinking, what, you know, so I think it's great to be in full possession of what you would call supreme confidence, and then see what happens if you don't hold on to it so hard, because it's great, but it is a bit of an illusion, because like everything else, it's always changing. And every day the reset button, the space bar gets pressed, and it's like, now what?
Yeah. My Taekwondo teacher said something to me when I was very young. They said that it is a tool for developing your human potential. Yeah, and I never forgot that, because I'm like, yeah, it's because it's really difficult to do. Like all martial arts are it's really difficult to get your body to move that way and to be able to be effective in a conflict situation. And if you can do it, and you can do it over and over again, and you can overcome that difficult thing, and you thought it was unsurmountable, and then you figured out how to do it, eventually you get to this point where you realize, well, everything in life is like that. Everything in life is like something, it's a puzzle. You have to figure out how am I approaching it wrong? What can I do to make it better? How do I get more competent at this particular skill or this particular discipline?
If you would go back to that younger self in that picture, what would you say to that younger self?
I don't know. I'd be cautious to say anything because it's worked out pretty well, you know. The slightly older version of that kid, I'd say it's going to be okay. You know, in those sort of worrisome nights that I would kind of spin my wheels on one subject or another and be full of concern and anxiety and regret and guilt and all this kind of strange concoction of emotions. I don't know why, but I would like to appease and remove some of that, if I could, to my younger self by saying, don't worry, just trust in the process and go with the flow a little more, you know.